Hi, Christopher Isaac here with the Social Academy for Women, and today's video might be a little bit more controversial. I've been studying a lot of different material, Carl Jung, Dr. Jordan Peterson, Tony Robbins, etc., and I kind of started to notice a theme with all of their ideas, their beliefs about humanity, and the way that we are oriented as humans, right? The human condition. And one of the big things that I'm finding as a pattern between all of them is the human capacity for evil, for hurting others, essentially. And as it relates to children, and as it relates to our culture as a Western culture, and how we want to basically keep children safe, which is what we're supposed to do as parents, as adults, as a tribe, as a community. We want to keep kids safe. However, I think it's been kind of perversely manipulated. And I would agree with their argument, right? Dr. Jordan Peterson, Carl Jung, etc., that the idea is not to protect children. We don't want to put them in a bubble where they're free from harm, because the world will hurt them. The world will kill them. And that's a frightening idea. It's a frightening thing to think about, but it's also real. And so the idea is not to protect them, because then they can't confront the world. They can't solve problems. They can't help people. They can't help themselves. They're dependent on their parents. They're dependent on their single mom, their single father. And yeah, my light just died. They're dependent on all of these things to operate for them. And as parents, we would want our kids, I'm not a parent, but as parents, we would want our kids to be able to confront the world, to be a man, to be a woman, to be their own individual and take on the problems of the world on their own. And in order to do that, we have to recognize that we are monsters. Me, if I were ever to become a father, as a father raising a child, I have to acknowledge that I am a monster. As a mother raising a child, that woman has to acknowledge her capacity for evil, that she is a monster, and that kids are monsters. Honestly, they are. They're tyrannical demons. You ever hung out with a kid long enough, you'll know. And I'm not even a parent, and I know that. But yeah, and my sister, there's a huge age gap between me and my sister. My sister's 12 years old. And one of the things that I've noticed about my sister, and instead of talking about how to parent, I guess I'll use a personal example about my life, my sister, and instead of telling you how to raise your kids, because it's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you a different framework, a different belief system to operate under to help empower your children. That's all I'm trying to do. And so with my sister's a little bit more neurotic, as psychology suggests women are typically. She's a little bit more neurotic. She's maybe a little bit more self-conscious. And the idea behind that, at least from a psychological standpoint, is that women basically operate under the assumption that they're going to have children. The female brain is designed to be more neurotic because of the fact that women have children. And because of that, they need to be more aware of threats, more aware of danger. And because they're more sexually vulnerable, because they're more they're smaller than men, essentially. You know, I'm not going to say that they're prey or victims or weak. They're none of those things. But purely from a physical, biological standpoint, that's why the female brain has evolved to be more neurotic. It's basically to ensure the safety of the child, which is a beautiful thing. However, there's two forms of this, right? And the more toxic form of this maternal archetype, if you will, is the mom that is overbearing, overprotective, never challenges her kids because she's trying to keep her kids safe. And as a result, this child grows up either extremely dependent, extremely self-conscious, insecure, and has no sense of identity, right? They look up to their mom, to their parents as this all source of being and safety and comfort and problem, conflict resolution. And that's not what you want for your kids. You want your kids to know how to handle the world, how to overcome the monsters within it, and to recognize that they themselves are a monster and that they themselves are more powerful than they might believe. And that's what you should instill in your kids. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's something I'm trying to instill in my sister. Because I can tell you, growing up, I was raised by a single mom, and I love her to death, and she did the best she could, and she was not toxic by any stretch of the imagination. However, I did see her date men who were more aggressive, who were more toxic. And so as a result, I grew up never really knowing what it meant to be a man, but more specifically, that aggression was a bad thing. And I struggled with women. I struggled with women because I was a pleaser. I was too agreeable. I'd give in, I'd fold, and I would chase women. And it was all for this need to be approved. And as I think it's important to understand, especially as a single mom, that your kids, especially if you have sons, they need to integrate what Carl Jung calls the shadow, right? The darker side of themselves, their capacity for evil, their capacity to hurt. And it's not that we want them to be those things. It's that we want to integrate it in a socially acceptable way. Maybe your son grows up to be an incredible athlete, right? He's extremely competitive. Well, you want to integrate that in a socially acceptable way. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's business, whatever it is, you want to integrate that in a healthy way, not in a way that kind of takes over them or where they're trying to repress it. And then they get into a relationship, they don't know how to deal with it, and they become overly stressed. And then they become those toxic individuals that we tried so hard for them not to be. And unfortunately, I kind of relate to that story, having grown up sort of repressing that side of myself. I have a friend right now. She has a daughter, and her daughter's about 4 years old, and her daughter is basically starting to show signs that she's being bullied at daycare, which is extremely unfortunate. And so one of my recommendations, one of the suggestions that I offered was basically, hey, why not sign your daughter up for self-defense classes? It might not be necessary. I'm not saying she's got to beat up bullies. That's not what we want to teach our kids, but we do want to teach our kids to have standards and to be able to at least speak up for themselves in a confident way. Instead of saying, don't bully me, and they can't really do anything about it, they have the confidence to know that if they need to, they can, but they shouldn't have to, as long as they can stand their ground and speak confidently. Hey, it's not okay. Don't treat me that way. Don't talk to me that way, whatever it is. And so you want to instill that. You want to teach them how to integrate the monster within them so that way they can conquer the monsters out in the world. And I think that's a beautiful notion. I think it's realistic, and I think it's the best possible outcome. And one of the things that I truly hope that I can instill positively in my sister, who I love very dearly, and who I see the world in her, and she's the most incredible, beautiful, intelligent, emotionally intelligent, just well-rounded child I've ever met. And I mean, everyone says that about the little one as my sister, or maybe I'm a little biased, but I definitely think that about her. I think she's an absolute genius in every sense. And I want her to not really succumb to the neurotic side of her emotional tendencies. And this kind of goes full circle to the beginning of the video where, my sister's a little bit more neurotic. I don't want her to grow up feeling like anxiety or fear or any of these things are so problematic for her that she can't overcome these problems, but rather understanding that maybe it is biologically ingrained in her, but she still has the capability to not be fearless, because it's not what we want to teach people. It's not to be fearless. It's impossible. We're biologically designed to experience fear. The idea is to be brave. We want to teach our kids to be brave. And so I want to teach my sister, this is something I was teaching her pretty recently, actually, in roller coasters. She's afraid of roller coasters. And she's like, I'm scared. I'm like, don't. And at first I was saying, don't be scared. It's fine. You'll be fine. And then I realized I can't tell a child not to be scared of something that they should be afraid of. When you have this box basically that's flying 60 miles an hour, going in circles and could derail, to them, that's a box of death. You can't tell a child not to be afraid of that. However, you can say, be brave. Be brave. And that's what I would tell her. She's like, I'm scared. I was like, I know. Be brave. She's like, okay, I'm brave. And she would confront it. And then afterwards, she'd be like, that was amazing. And it's like, I know. That's how life works. Confront your fears and you usually get rewarded for it. Be brave. It's not about being fearless. It's about being brave and teaching them the tools to have to back their voice up, their words with that bravery, their ability to face the monsters in the world and handle them. And so anyway, I hope this helps you, for all the single moms or the co-parents or the happily married or maybe not married, the parents out there in the world, whatever your situation is, I hope this helps you. And I hope this helps you basically make a difference in a child's life, even if you don't have kids. So thank you for watching, and until next time.